Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to kick off our presentation today. We're going to explore the fascinating world of economics as a social science. This first slide introduces our main topic, which is understanding how economics helps us analyze human behavior and societal trends. Over the next few slides, we'll cover key concepts, the role of economic theories, and how they impact our everyday lives. So, let's get started and dive into this intriguing subject. Let's take a moment to consider the challenges we face when conducting scientific experiments in economics. Unlike in natural sciences, where experiments can often be controlled precisely, economics deals with complex human behaviors and social systems, making experimentation much more difficult. We can't always manipulate variables easily or observe outcomes in a controlled environment, which adds a layer of complexity to our research. Now, turning to the question, what is economics? At its core, economics is the study of how people make choices to allocate limited resources. It explores how individuals, businesses, and governments decide to produce, distribute, and consume goods and services. This field helps us understand the driving forces behind economic activity and how those forces impact society as a whole. Connecting these ideas to our overall theme, understanding the difficulties in experimentation reminds us why economics often relies on models, simulations, and observational data rather than straightforward experiments. This makes the study both challenging and fascinating as we strive to uncover insights into human behavior and economic systems amid these constraints. So, what is economics? Well, at its core, economics is the study of how people, businesses, and governments make choices about allocating limited resources to satisfy their unlimited wants and needs. It's really about understanding the decisions behind everyday actions, like why we choose to buy certain products, or why companies decide to produce specific goods. Economics helps us see the bigger picture of how markets function and how economic policies impact our lives. Throughout this presentation, we'll explore how these choices shape our economy and, ultimately, our society. Let's explore how we can use abstract models to understand the complex ways in which the real world operates. These models act like simplified versions of reality, helping us grasp the underlying mechanisms at play. Now, moving on to the scientific method. This is a systematic way of studying societies and human behavior. It involves making observations, forming hypotheses, testing them through experiments or data analysis, and then drawing conclusions. It's a rigorous approach that helps ensure our understanding is based on evidence. Social science, then, is the broader field that encompasses this kind of study. It looks at how groups of people make decisions, especially when they have to allocate limited resources. Because resources are scarce, choices must be made, and social science helps us understand the patterns and principles behind these decisions. Specifically, when we talk about economics, we're focusing on how individuals, groups, and societies decide to distribute these scarce resources. Economics is fundamentally about understanding these decision-making processes, which impact everything from personal finance to global markets. So, in essence, economics is a social science that uses scientific methods and models to analyze how resources are allocated, helping us better understand the functioning of societies and economies as a whole. Now, let's talk about the 3 key steps in the scientific method. First, you need to accept, modify, or even refute the theory. This means you're not just taking ideas at face value, you're critically evaluating them based on evidence. Next, gather evidence to support or refute the theory. This is where experiments, observations, and data collection come into play, helping us determine whether the theory holds up. Finally, postulate a theory or model, which is essentially putting forward a hypothesis that can be tested and potentially refuted. This step is crucial because it allows us to build new knowledge and refine our understanding. These steps are fundamental to scientific progress. They keep us questioning, testing, and improving our ideas. And as you'll see throughout this presentation, understanding this process is key to applying scientific thinking in real-world situations. Economists use models to simplify reality in order to improve our understanding of the world. Models are essentially simplified versions of complex economic situations that help us analyze how different factors interact. By focusing on key elements, models allow us to see the bigger picture without getting lost in every detail. This simplification is crucial because real-world economic systems are incredibly complicated. Using models helps us make sense of patterns, predict outcomes, and test different assumptions. In economics, these models are tools that support decision-making and policy development. So, in this slide, we're highlighting the importance of models in helping us grasp economic concepts more clearly. It ties into the overall theme of using structured approaches to understand and navigate the complexities of the economy. Let's talk about assumptions in economics. An important reason we use assumptions is that in the real world, it's often really difficult to isolate all the different variables at play. This complexity can make understanding economic phenomena quite challenging. That's where the concept of ceteris paribus comes in. It's a Latin phrase that means all other things remaining equal. By assuming that everything else stays constant, we can focus on the relationship between a few key variables without getting lost in the details. Assumptions are essential because they allow economists to build models. These models serve as simplified representations of reality, helping us answer specific questions about how the economy works. Ultimately, the role of assumptions is to make the world a bit easier to understand. They provide a clear framework that helps us analyze economic behavior and make predictions. So, in summary, assumptions are a fundamental tool in economics for simplifying complex systems, enabling us to focus on key factors and ultimately gaining insights into economic processes. Now, let's consider some of the potential downsides of using models. One key issue is that they can produce incorrect results. This often happens because data and analysis are sometimes overly simplified, which can lead to misleading conclusions. Remember, the quality of the output is directly linked to the quality of the input, so if the data is flawed, the results will be too. Additionally, humans might not change their behavior even when a model predicts certain outcomes. This is because models typically assume complete rationality, but in reality, individuals have bounded rationality and don't always act logically or predictably. Another important point is that the assumptions built into models might not hold true across different settings. What works in one context might not apply in another. And, importantly, the bias of the person who creates the model can influence the results, which introduces another layer of potential error. On the flip side, there are several benefits to using models. They help us understand causality by showing which factors are relevant or irrelevant, which is crucial for making informed decisions. Models also allow us to isolate the effect of a specific variable, making complex relationships clearer. They speed up the analysis process, making it more efficient, and they make the results more accessible to a broader audience. Furthermore, models simplify complex data, helping us see the bigger picture more easily. They provide a clear, mathematical way to represent data, which can be very useful for forecasting activities and planning future policies. Overall, while they have limitations, models are powerful tools that, when used thoughtfully, can significantly enhance our understanding and decision-making. Let's take a closer look at some of the difficulties faced when conducting scientific experiments in economics. Unlike in natural sciences, where experiments can often be tightly controlled, economic experiments tend to be quite challenging. One major issue is controlling variables. In economics, so many factors are interconnected, making it tough to isolate the effect of a single variable. Another challenge is ethical constraints. Unlike testing in physical sciences, we can't always manipulate economic conditions or behaviors without considering real-world implications. This limits how freely we can experiment. Additionally, participant behavior can be unpredictable. People don't always act in rational, predictable ways, which adds another layer of complexity. And finally, external validity is a concern, Just because something works in a controlled setting doesn't mean it will work the same way in the real world. All these factors highlight why economic experiments require careful design and cautious interpretation. Recognizing these difficulties is crucial as we try to build reliable economic knowledge through experimentation. So, should economists really be allowed to gamble with other people's jobs, homes, and possessions just to satisfy their curiosity about how the economy works? It's a tough question. Even if we imagine a perfectly sterile environment, where there are no outside influences or ethical issues, there are still serious concerns. One of the biggest problems is that, in reality, we can't create a completely isolated environment for economic experiments. The world is messy, and human lives are involved. That's where the ethical objections come in. Subjecting real people's lives to the unpredictable whims of economic experiments raises moral questions we can't ignore. Now, under the umbrella of ethical objections, one key point is that we don't have a truly sterile environment. Unlike laboratory experiments in science, economics deals with living, breathing human beings, and their livelihoods are at stake. Furthermore, conducting scientific experiments in economics isn't straightforward. The challenges are significant. There are difficulties in controlling variables, replicating real-world conditions, and ensuring that the outcomes are meaningful and ethical. So, when we think about the overall theme of responsible economic inquiry, it becomes clear that these ethical and practical challenges serve as important barriers. They remind us that while curiosity drives progress, we must always consider the moral implications and real-world complexities involved. Let's talk about some limitations of economic experiments. First, when we introduce new policies or changes, they often lead to new behaviors. These behaviors can, in turn, make it harder to get accurate results because the agents involved, people, businesses, governments, have free will and imagination. They can react in ways we didn't anticipate, which means the original assumptions might no longer hold true. Next, it's really challenging to determine the exact impact of a specific economic change. Unlike in a laboratory, we can't create perfect control groups. Every city, country, or economic agent is unique, so finding a truly comparable group becomes almost impossible. This makes isolating the effects of one particular policy or change quite difficult. And finally, economic experiments can be easily distorted by other variables changing at the same time. Unlike experiments in controlled settings, we can't pause the economy to examine one element in isolation. Multiple factors are always shifting simultaneously, which complicates our ability to attribute outcomes to a single cause. Overall, these limitations highlight why economic experiments, while useful, have their constraints in providing clear-cut answers. Let's talk about why economists can't predict exactly how every individual will allocate their resources. You see, human behavior is incredibly complex and diverse. Because of that, creating universal laws that apply to everyone is simply not feasible. Some people believe that due to the vast differences among individuals and the unique conditions they face, there are no single set of rules or laws that can accurately describe human behavior across the board. This idea highlights the absence of universal laws of human behavior, which is a crucial point in understanding the limitations of economic predictions. It reminds us that human choices are influenced by countless variables, making it impossible to develop one-size-fits-all laws in economics. This connects to the broader theme that human behavior is inherently unpredictable and diverse, challenging the notion of universal economic principles. So, where do we go from here? Well, this slide is all about looking ahead and exploring the next steps. First, it's important to consider how we can build on the progress we've made so far. We want to identify opportunities for further development and innovation. That means staying adaptable and open to new ideas that can enhance our strategies. Next, we should think about the key challenges that might lie ahead and how we can proactively address them. This will help ensure that our efforts are sustainable and impactful in the long run. Finally, connecting these next steps to our overall theme, it's clear that continuous improvement and strategic foresight are crucial. They will enable us to stay ahead in a competitive landscape and achieve our ultimate goals. So, let's keep this forward-looking mindset as we move into the next phase of our journey. So, if you want to stay connected with us beyond this presentation, you can find us on social media. We're on Facebook under @SmoothEconomics, on Twitter also as @SmoothEconomics, and on Instagram as @SmoothEconomics. And for those who enjoy video content, we're on YouTube as Smooth Economics. Finding our socials is a great way to keep up with the latest updates, insights, and discussions related to economics. And don't forget our website at www.smootheconomics.co. UK is packed with more resources, enrichment materials, detailed course information, competitions, and much more. So, I encourage you to visit our website to explore these additional opportunities and deepen your understanding of economics. As we wrap up, remember, the key takeaway is that staying engaged through these channels can really enhance your learning journey and connect you with a community that shares your interest in economics. Thank you for being part of this presentation, and I hope to see you online or on our platform soon.